Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co, and today I'm doing a rapid-fire review of Civolution from Pegasus Bill and designed by Stefan Feld. This is very much going to be in the rapid-fire review format, which generally the main point of that format is it's a slightly different take on my usual format. The main change is I don't go into the full how to teach, I do kind of more of a general overview, and in this game I'm honestly going to skip even that. I'll do a little bit of an overview, but it's going to be very condensed because I think that one of the challenges of this game, and there's a lot to like here, we'll get to all of that, but one of the challenges of this game is that it is not a simple game to teach. Civolution is a sprawling Civ game, to a certain extent, but it's an abstracted Civ game. It's more about the cards in the game, because yes, you have a board, you have your own player dashboards, you have technologies, but ultimately this game plays out across 4 rounds in which you do basically anything to get points. There's a ton of things you can explore, and then you just try to do as many things as possible to get points. But what I will say is one of the primary hooks of this game is going to be the action selection system and the cards. I think those are the 2 main primary hooks. And so looking at that action selection system, let's go ahead and show you our board over here. This board over here, the way this board works is you have tons of actions over here that you can upgrade as you play the game. You have to assign 2 dice to an action, and every combination of actions has a different combination. So on your turn, you're generally going to start by having a few dice that you're going to roll, and then for example, I can take this 5 and the 3 and assign it to the action that is a 5 and a 3, which in this case is a production action. We will not be going through these actions, it is a lot going on here. As you spend your dice, your options get fewer. If you're familiar with Castle of Burgundy, then you'll see some of the familiarity of having ideas which represent workers. You can modify dice, there's things like that you can do, but you're basically using your dice to assign them towards actions based on the combination of the dice. That's the main system you have. The other thing you have are these decks of cards. You have 5 different decks representing 5 different branches, and these cards are going to be slotted into your player board, so as you slot these cards, you're going to get bonuses, both one-time benefits, ongoing benefits, and then points at the end of the game, depending on which row you were able to slot those cards in. That's kind of the basic idea of what I can do as far as the game goes without getting into a ton more. I will dive into a little bit more. You're also playing out on this board here. You will be slowly exploring from 2 central areas. You'll be able to spawn more troops over here. Troops, not troops, they're people. Your civilization is expanding. You're going to be feeding them with food at the end of each round, which means you need to hunt and get food, or alternatively build huts that make sure they don't need to be fed. Lots of options for you as you play through this. You can play an entire game of Civolution with only your 2 starting guys and never expand further and win the game. You could also go ahead and build like 20 different people, which seems insane to me. I think the most I've gotten so far is like 9. And you could do more than that, but it just, you'd have to really go ahead and drive towards that. And the good news is you do get points for all your people. So if you get to 20 people pretty quickly, you do get points at the end of each round for your people. And also there's also scoring at the end of the game. You get a minimum of 2 points, possibly more, depending on the scoring modifiers. Each game is going to be different. And so there's a lot of pathways you can pursue, from trying to build out your cards, from trying to unlock your actions and upgrade those as much as possible, from expanding on this board, from focusing on production. There's a whole little aspect of boats in the game. Boats are incredibly powerful, but like in many games you will have no players actually engaged in building boats, but if you do build boats and focus on the technologies that reward those, you can have a very strong combination of how your boat feeds these wild resources. There's a ton to explore in this game, and when you get to the end of the 4th round, you're going to go through a kind of a scoring system of scoring all the things you did. This is a Stefan Feld game. Everything you do is going to give you points. It's up to you to try to figure out which combination of things are going to result in you having the best engine, the best growth of your tableau, while also getting the most points. This is not a teach. This is the furthest thing from a teach. This game, even when you teach it, it's not the hardest game to teach. It's just a long teach. There's a lot of information to get to. So with that mini overview out of the way, let's get into my rapid fire review format, starting with the first question I always have: am I keeping this game? And the answer is no. I thought I would. After my first play, I thought I would. I thought I would love this game, and I do like this game. We'll get to that. But no, I'm not keeping this game. Why or why not? Ultimately, it really is a great game. This is a great game with a lot going to it. But the biggest thing for me, as far as why I'm not keeping it, because I'll get into all the things I like shortly, but the biggest thing for me is after multiple plays, because my first play was the cusp of like, I feel I'm almost there as far as getting a little bit more done. But every subsequent play, I kind of felt the same way. I felt like I just wanted to get a little bit more done. And generally when I have a game like that, where I always feel after multiple plays, because first play to second play to third play, there's differences as you learn the ins and outs of a game system. And make no mistake, I am not proclaiming to be an expert at Civolution. I am saying that after a bunch of plays, I keep feeling like I'm on the cusp of getting a drop more done. And I feel like that next play I'll get a bit more done. And I don't need to get everything done in a game, but I do need to feel that what I did was fulfilling, that I get to the end of that journey and I'm like, that was fun. As opposed to I get to the end of the journey and I'm like, next game I'll be right there. And there's a lot of games that do have that feeling as far as how much you get done and how satisfying that engine feels. Civolution for me is incredibly satisfying in so many parts. In all the counter opinion stuff, I'll get into all the things I do like, because there's a lot to like here. But the core things holding it back for me are two things. This is a very long teach. It is not a short teach. It is not an easy teach. If you're not playing this consistently, it'll be hard to, like, if you're playing this once a year with people, you'll have to refresh them on things. There's just a lot going on here. So it's not the most accessible as far as getting it to the table with new groups. And then even once you do so, to me, I keep feeling like I'm on the cusp of getting that level of what I want. And that usually means one of two things. Either it means I haven't grokked that magic, I haven't found that exact pattern, or sometimes it means that that's how much you get done. And for some players, that's very satisfying, and for me, that's just, I want to get more done in it. And I don't know which of those two things it is, by the way, but I'm just saying that my own experience is I want to get more done in the game. As far as other similar games worth checking out, I already mentioned Castle of Burgundy. There's definitely going to be similarities there. Definitely check out that, but I'll still throw in two more recommendations. This very heavily reminds me of A Feast for Odin, in the sense that you have a bajillion things you have to learn. None of them are overly complicated, but the sheer amount of options at your disposal, it has that feel of A Feast for Odin to me. A smorgasbord of stuff, and then you have to figure out which combination of those things and which areas you're going to dive into. For me personally, A Feast for Odin does feel, by the time I get to the end of that journey, that I did get that enough done. And I will say, Feast for Odin is also a game that my first play, I was not quite sold, and subsequent plays brought me to that understanding where I was like, this is the engine, this is how satisfying it is. And I'll say Feast for Odin, whether I score 40 points or 120 points, I still feel just as satisfied by the things I did, versus Civolution, I always feel like I want that fifth round to just get a drop more done. And another game I recommend is Expeditions. Civolution very heavily is about the cards you're going to be combining while having a board that you're playing out and moving around. That aspect of the game very much reminded me of Expeditions. Expeditions is another game where you're focusing on building up your tableau and trying to find those combinations of cards that best work together, very similar to what's happening in Civolution. Very different experiences, and I think Expeditions, again, is a little less brain burnery, much easier to teach, much easier to get people running, and a very satisfying experience. Both Feast for Odin and Expeditions, by the way, are 5 out of 5 games for me. With that said, as far as the counter opinion, and this is where I'll see if this video can be in 10 minutes or less. My rapid fire reviews don't have a hard limit, but I try to aim for 10 minutes or less. There is a lot to like here. This game was living rent-free in my head between, overused expression, this game was in my head between my first play and diving into it again. I was like sitting there, I was like, I want to do this, I want to explore that. Even now, there's still pathways that I haven't explored, things I haven't tried in this game, because there's a lot of ways to build up your tableau. Every action has 3 levels, your starting level, then 2 upgraded levels, which means there's so many different ways you can build out your unique advantages. And you're not going to see everything in this game, it's not possible, but you can find large, again, similar to Feast for Odin, you'll find large areas, bricks of the game that you'll explore. Did you build up more people? Did you explore across the board? Are you producing a ton of resources? How heavy are your card engines? Are you focusing on your objectives over here, these goals, these trophies, to be able to get these in play and get the abilities and upgrade your abilities and score on this row as you go through them? Are you going to be focusing heavily on building? You have this entire section of building in the game with 4 different things you can build, from ships to buildings to huts to statues. The statue game, oh my gosh, you can sit there and ramp up a track that rewards you for the statues that you have, getting as much as 4 points per statue, more with cards. There's cards that will bump that higher, so you can get like 6 points per statue if you build your engine right. And if you can get 4 or 5 statues on the game by the end of round 2 or 3, you'll have a nice engine of things coming in while also bumping yourself up on those stat tracks. There's a whole bunch of stat tracks, the statues will do that. So this whole thing feeds into each other as you try to figure out what you're doing. But you could also play the entire game and never build a single statue, and that's part of the brilliance of this game, that there's so much you can explore, so much you can do, while also not necessarily exploring even close to the amount of things you can do. These decks of cards, like I don't even know how many of these cards I haven't seen, because you only see maybe 6, 7 cards of each color by the time you play through a full game. And so if you even play it 3, 4 times, like there's so many cards. There's so many cards, you will never see the amount of cards that can combine in different ways, which means the depth of the variety of the experience as you attempt to combine different cards to be able to figure out what way your techs are going to combine, from the instant use benefits to the ongoing benefits, how you're going to build towards your competitive advantages. There is so much happening. There is so much to explore. I guarantee you, I guess I already said it, so I don't need to guarantee you. I have not explored everything there is in this game. There's 20 events. You only see 4 events per game. You need to play 5 games with completely different events in order to even see the different events that are in play. And again, that's kind of the variety you have here as far as all these different systems that work together to give you different ways to pursue victory, different ways to build out your tableau, different ways to experience everything the game has to offer. So this game has an incredibly deep experience, an incredibly strategic experience, an incredibly variable experience, different ways to pursue how you build up and upgrade your tableau. And it also, game length, by the way, game length is a factor, but it's not a huge factor. I mentioned that the teach and the level I get done are the main things for me, because game length might be a concern for you. This game can easily run to 3 to 4 hours with the wrong group or the wrong player count if you take too long. Personally, my experience mostly has been with new people. It's usually around a 3-hour experience. I'd have to figure out if that includes teach. Maybe 3.5 hours if you're including the teach and all that. So a 3.5-hour experience for your first game. And then if you're diving into it for a second time, I've generally found that you can knock off a good 45 minutes of that. So you can get into like the 2 hours 45, maybe even 2.5. If you're playing 2-player, you might be able to get a 2-hour game. I've done 1 2-player game. I don't think I had 2 hours because I was somebody new. So there's still a teach for that. So I was still in the 3-hour range. I think you can probably get it down to 2 hours with 2 people who really know it, but it's usually going to be around 2.5 to 3 hours. But that said, the time flies by. I have fun in that time. It's not a game that I'm waiting for it to be over. It's a game where I'm just waiting to do the next combination of things as I try to figure out the variety of ways to build up everything in this game. And again, everything scores. So it is satisfying in that sense as you get points towards the end, as you're starting points in the beginning of that. In the first round, you're like, I'm at 4 points, and you don't understand exactly how to build out that engine. But then you get to the end, and suddenly you're at 250 points. You're like, oh, okay, cool. There's a way to actually optimize this. And I don't even know how high you can go. I haven't crossed 300 yet. I assume it's doable based on what I've seen. If I can get to like 250-ish, I assume you can absolutely get to 300. But I don't fully know. So I don't know how high the scoring on this can go. So there's a lot to like here. There's a lot that's very satisfying. For me, final thoughts and rating on this one is I'm going to be coming in at a 4 out of 5. And I can understand anyone who rates it higher. I can understand anyone who rates it lower. It's not going to be a game for everyone. For me, this is incredibly satisfying. It is incredibly satisfying, but again, after exploring it multiple times, I feel like I keep wanting to get a bit more out of the experience. And that, I don't know what number play it takes to get there. Does it take my 6th play, my 10th play? I don't know where, maybe it's just not the type of game that does that amount, and maybe I won't be able to. I will say that this feels very similar to the kind of game system that I love. The variability of the experience, the sheer amount of cards that build into your engine, the depth of the tactical strategy as you play through it. There's a lot here that I thoroughly enjoy and can recommend. If you like any of the games I've mentioned, Feast Mode and Castle of Burgundy, Expeditions, if you like those games, the 8.2 rating that this has on Board Game Geek, I understand why it has that, and you should check this out. Because I think for many people, I think if you like this kind of game, you will like Civolution. How much you like Civolution will vary. For me personally, when I said at the beginning, am I keeping it? No. At the end of the day, a game that's going to be a 2.5, 3 hour long experience, I do want to pick the games off the shelf that are likely to give me those Feast for Odin experiences, those Castle of Burgundy experiences. Civolution is a great game to have in your collection. For me personally, a game that's this long, I want to play the absolute best of the best. Civolution is not a game I would shy away from playing again. It is a good game. It is an enjoyable game. I still feel there's ways I want to explore different combinations of things, and so I would happily play this. If I was at a convention and I want to play Civolution, this is an easy yes for me. But for me and the prioritization I have at my own game night, there's small areas where it falls a drop shy. In any case, then until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.